Hey, nothing I'm going to say is any disrespect for Paul Williams, because you frankly couldn't tell tonight who won the fight based on 3 rounds and change. So he's a great champion, and there's no disrespect to him, but 4 rounds to nothing after a 3.5 round fight for Paul. They weren't watching the fight, and I don't see any way that was worse than 2-2 either way, though I thought my guy, if you had to score 4 rounds, won 3-1. But again, to say a fight that goes 3.5 rounds is decided between 2 guys of this kind of stature, it's shaky. And I don't know what the California rule says. I guess apparently it says 3 rounds and you score the 4th, but you got a guy from the DC Baltimore area fighting a guy from Reading, Pennsylvania, and a really stupid law in California dictates a really unsatisfying result to a freak of nature situation. Just doesn't seem appropriate or fair. And I'm not going to sit here and scream and yell who really won a 3.5 round fight, though. Again, I'm sure my guy's sitting in a hospital right now. I know he is, going, what the fuck, how did I possibly not get that quote-unquote decision? But to be honest, I think really what our team is feeling is that should have been a no contest. And it should happen again. Because you saw very clearly there were 2 guys getting very competitive in there. And Paul's a great fighter. Paul also, if someone got hurt in that 3.5 rounds, the guy that got hurt was Paul Williams. And that's just fact. So, again, no disrespect to Paul. He's a great fighter. I've been on the other side of the ring from Dan and Mr. Peterson and Paul a number of times. I think he's a great fighter. I have nothing but respect for him. But tonight he was in for a long night. I mean, he was in for a tough fight, and we all got robbed by circumstance. So and again, Goosen doesn't write the California laws, so I ain't mad at anybody. But it's a dumb, stupid law, and to have 2 guys from other states have a very peculiar California rule determine the outcome of something like that, in my view, is just wrong. And we're going to send in protests and everything else, but it's not going to matter. Really, what we want is a rematch. That's what we want.
Dude, did you see the second that he fell?
No, I saw one of the things, I just spoke to Kermit. He said to tell everybody he's fine. I think he feels basically the same way Paul feels, that was very unsatisfying for everybody. I think he actually felt like he was going to have his night. So I think he's especially crestfallen. What he said to me, and I guess people standing right there heard it and said it, he was telling the doctor he wanted to try to get up and continue. He said that he thought he was okay. But I understand why the doctor did what he did, because there were 2 impacts, and the second one he looked like he hit his head. And it looked like he hit pretty hard. It was right in front of him, it was right in front of me. And as soon as the doctor saw the second contact with his head on the ground, he wasn't going to let him get up. He wanted him to be checked out. And but he did immediately try to get up. He wanted to get up. He wanted to continue fighting. I think we would have seen exactly what we were promoting, which was a great fight. But in famous parlance, shit happens.
Doctor, well, both doctors were attending you, and Lou, as far as 2 fighters that aren't from the state of California, obviously whatever the rule was, it was. I mean, who knew what the scores were? No one did. Huh? Well, again, it's kind of what I said earlier, Ronnie. I don't know if you were here, but quite frankly, there was nothing that happened in that ring that I believe that anybody would sit there other than maybe.
I don't agree with that.
Well,
ask these guys if they knew who was going to win that fight.
No. I didn't say that,
and if
Lou.
You get paid Pacquiao or Mayweather, it's one thing. If you don't,
Lou, I'm not saying that. What I said is there was nothing in there that would really be compelling to want to see the fight again. I mean, obviously, we only saw 3.5 rounds.
I totally don't agree with you. I think your guy, the 4th round was a terrific round. There were 2 excellent rounds.
Look.
Your guy got hurt.
Obviously, as we've discussed before, there's a lot of fights that if they aren't made, obviously, Kermit is always a possibility.
I mean, I just hope Cintron was all right and stuff, But that's good, But the punches started heating up in that fight. He started getting in my rhythm, and he caught me with a nice shot. I bounced right back. Glancing with a glancing left hand. Then he pulled my head down, and then I tripped over and fell. Then he went out the ring. And that was the end of it. But the punches and everything, everything started heating up, and that round was gonna be a lot of action round. Mr. Peterson told me, don't start out like you normally start out, because, you know, around this shit probably telling Cintron, you know what I'm saying, throw right hands or the hook or whatever. So our game plan was to be real relaxed this fight, you know what I'm saying, sit back and just fill him out, just keep getting in our rhythm. And then when he told me to step it up that round, he like, this round, I want you to apply direct pressure on him now. So that's when we started getting into a little missing, but, you know, the fight ended short, so, you know, ain't nobody no psychic, so that's the end of it, you know. But, you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles, you know. I wanted, you know what I'm saying, to fight more. I'm pretty sure Cintron wanted to keep fighting, you know, for the fans, you know, I feel like they didn't get their money's worth, you know, but, you know, maybe if they want to do it again, you know what I'm saying, if Al and Dan and Mr. Peterson say we go again, you know, I'm all in, you know.
There you go. That's a fight.
It is a fight. That's what you want to hear.
That's all right. Well, as I said earlier, Paul's never turned down any challenge.
Were you hurt? Were you hurt, Paul?
Oh, no, you know, man, come on, I'm a warrior, you know what I'm saying. He caught me with a nice little shot, but I kept bouncing right back and show him that, you know, we're going to be in for the long haul, you know, so I caught him back with a nice little shot, and then I just caught him with like a little grazing left hand, you know, he kind of like spent me with his hand on my head, and then I went down, you know what I'm saying, then he, you know what I'm saying, went out the ring, you know, we just got tangled up, you know. But that round was going to be a lot of action around, even though I know he probably would have landed some shots in there, but I definitely was going to land some more shots in there too.
You feel like you won that fight legitimate?
Of course I feel like I won the fight, you know what I'm saying. Anytime you get a win, you feel like you win, you know what I'm saying. I feel like I was, you know what I'm saying, he caught me with some little shots in there, but I feel like I was boxing him and stuff. You know,
Old rule, you don't argue with a W.
Well,
I don't blame you.
Lou,
You got the W, you got the W.
Lou says it best, you know. But, you know, I mean, I can't say no. I can't tell you how the fight would turn out. I know I was going to win the fight because that was my mind frame to go in there to win the fight. But, you know, maybe, you know, something that happened, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know what to say, you know. It was just, I don't even know what to say, man. You know, me, I like to be in a fight like it's a war, you know what I'm saying, all the way through the whole 12, but I can't speak on it, you know. I don't know what to say, you know.
No, obviously you weren't here earlier, and I'll just say it in a nutshell. The fight to be made is Mayweather and Pacquiao, but if it's not, just succinctly, I know as a fan, I don't want to see a Pacquiao and Claude or another recycled welterweight again. Now, you know, you got to give Mayweather his props because he took on, when that fight fell apart with Pacquiao, he took on Mosley, who we all thought was going to be a very challenging fight. So, and that's what I'm saying. Mosley just happened to be standing there, the only legitimate welterweight there. Well, Paul Williams doesn't need to go out there and beg for the fight or taunt anyone. He's the man standing right there if that fight doesn't get made. Well, you know, again, Paul's never turned down any challenge, and it's, you know, I have two comments there. It was a 3.5 round fight, and it was starting to heat up, but it wasn't anything there that anyone would say within that 3.5 rounds to say, hey, let's do that one right back. So we know that Cintron's there. We know that Cintron would like to have another shot. You know what our plans are right now, so like everything else, we want the biggest and best fights out there for Paul Williams. And you know, one of the things that I love about Paul is, you know, I was sitting here and close to 30 years in this business, and I've never heard a fighter say that I heard the boos or anything. And to hear Paul Williams always talk it exactly the truth, I mean, it is a real breath of fresh air, and I applaud you for that. But whoever was booing doesn't know Paul Williams, because I know that you would have been heating that ring up as it went on, Paul.